Hello, this is Dan with August Games, and I'm here to show you Dragon Brew Rise of the Gnomes. So this game is a standalone sequel to Dragon Brew, which was published, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. This game is an area control game where you and your friends are brewers in the land of Brumancia, competing to be the best brewer of the land by getting more customers, getting more gold, building more breweries, and expanding your empire. Unfortunately, things are never easy, and that's thanks to those pesky gnomes. So in Dragon Brew, people who have played it, kind of the gnomes were the oppressed worker class. Well, in this game, the gnomes are in revolution. Except in Brumancia, they don't revolt with like pitchforks and torches. They revolt by brewing beer to compete with you guys. So they, just like you, are going to be brewing beer, trying to spread their brewery empire and compete with the rest of you. So essentially, it's an automa player. To make things even worse, a dragon, in this case, an aquatic dragon, there it is, has returned to Brumancia and is going to be out for blood. Actually, out to eat your customers and out to burn down your breweries. So there's kind of a lot going on in the world, but you must brew on. So this game can be played 4 different ways. You could play this solo, which means basically you against the gnomes. You could play this cooperatively, where you and all of your friends are competing together against the gnomes. In this case, this is a 2-player co-op example here I set up here in Tabletopia. The other way to play, which I can have in the back of the board here, is competitive. So competitive is you are all playing against each other, and the gnomes are just treated like any other player. They're out there competing. The last way is cutthroat, which is a form of competitive play where normally the gnomes are kind of controlled by random draws from a deck. In Cutthroat, the players are going to be dealt hands of gnome cards, and the players are going to be controlling what the gnomes do, usually to the detriment of their neighbors. So that's a very hard way to play the game. Extremely, extremely fun. So let's proceed now to the game objective. So in co-op play and solo play, the object of the game is to have all the players, right here, have more points than the gnomes, and points are tracked on this turn track right here. So, for example, in a 4-player game, all 4 players have to have more points. So if one of the players, let's say the lowest player, is tied with the gnomes or has less points, all players lose. So it's a challenge to get everybody up above the gnomes. As I mentioned earlier, in Cutthroat and competitive play, it's just whoever has the most points at the end of the game win. Now, the gnomes very well can win. So, how you score points, we'll go into when we go through later videos about how the game is played. But essentially, you're going to be earning points by having more breweries, having more customers, having more gold, having the better allies than the rest of the players. You're also rewarded for holding Dragon Keep, which is this center tile here. You're going to get extra 2 points every turn. So, restoring order in the capital is also something that will give you points every single turn. That is the kind of the game objective. So let me kind of briefly go over the game components. We'll go in this in depth as we go through our subsequent videos, but I'll just give you a brief overview of the player board. So the game has 5 player colors, 6 if you get the optional expansion. Each player color has 2 races, though during our Kickstarter campaign we're offering 2 additional races per color, kind of exclusively for backing our campaign. So that would mean 5 players, 4 races for each. In this example, my favorite, orcs. And I think I have over here, Orcs and Goblins here are the only two breweries in the land, because we know Orcs and Goblins make the best beer. Your player board is where you're going to be placing your breweries onto the board. We mentioned earlier here, this board is made up of tiles, which is randomly generated every game. This is where you're going to keep track of your upgrades. So as you place breweries, you can upgrade and give yourself special abilities. Every race has a different set of upgrades that are unique to them. Sorry about the sound effects. It's Tabletopia. This is where you're going to keep track of how much beer. So beer is kind of a currency in the game. Beer and gold. You spend beer to kind of feed your workers to go out and do more work. And gold, obviously, everybody loves gold. Gold also can be used. This is also where you're going to be placing workers to brew your beer. Down here at the bottom are your customer cubes. Notice, these symbols are for points and gold. As you get more and more customers out on the board, right? The more customers, the better. The more points and gold you're going to earn every single turn. So, this is your kind of player board. Again, this is your gold. Beer, which you're going to brew here. Here are your workers. Now, these are Tabletopia components. The actual components we hope to make a little bit even fancier. And just to show you a comparison, the goblins have a different. Their top three are the same. In this case, they're all about brewing beer, but they have kind of 4 additional abilities here that are unique to them. Again, they're starting gold, and everything was all right here. So let's look at the game board. I guess we call it a board, even though it's made up of tiles. So kind of important to note is that the setup for the game board varies based on the type of gameplay and how many players. So in this case, I'll show you, this is kind of a reference sheet. Based on the number of players, it kind of shows you how to set up the board. This is not unique. A lot of games have this. The green layer is always kind of the same set of tiles, types of tiles, and then the yellow and red are what's randomly generated. The reason that there's a yellow and a red is that in a co-op game or solo game, these are always face up, and then they have these special tiles which are only played only used in co-op and solo play, which represent spaces where the gnomes enter the board. They kind of represent they're immigrants from they're fleeing their gnome land to come to Brabantsia to brew all your beer. And if you look at the difference, and then competitive, the red is face down. So when you start the game, you only get to see the yellow and the green area, but then this whole outside, in this case, if you're doing a five-player game or 6, would all be face down. So that's always unique, and the dragon's always in the outside. So that's kind of a fun part of the game, is like, where's the dragon gonna pop up? Unfortunately, this is co-op play, and the dragon always starts. So I'll just give you show you a couple of tiles. So I already showed you, this is the Dragon Keep tile, which is the center tile, the capital. This means it's worth 2 points every single round if you actually control the tile. Control being defined as having a brewery in that tile. So I had to have a sip. I wish it was beer. And then there's different sorts of land tiles. We have grassland, forest, swamp, mountains, and highlands. We also have what is this? Yeah, this is the ocean. Sorry, and I already showed you where the gnome tiles were. And then this is where the dragon lives. This is the dragon's lair, which is kind of a like Monster Island out there in the middle of the ocean. These symbols here at the bottom, these are used to determine tie breaking, primarily for the gnomes. So when the gnomes or the dragon have to move in a particular type of tile, if there's 2 valid tiles, you look at the order of the symbols to determine what it moves into. So it's very, very simple to resolve things. These are boats, which are able to build out onto ocean tiles to basically bridge all the tiles together. I'll go kind of briefly through these things. Obviously, you have your gold and beer and your upgrade tokens you get to add. This is the scoreboard where you're going to keep track of your score. Looks very similar to the one used in Dragon Brew. The game is played over six turns, and there are 5 different phases. Oh, sorry, 6 different phases. This is where you're going to be tracking your phases, and this is where you're tracking your turns. So once you complete this phase, this goes here, it resets, it progresses. This right at the bottom indicates that the dragon gets harder to bribe and gets hungrier and hungrier throughout the game. So first turn, you can bribe the dragon with 1 gold. They only eat 2 of your customers. By the end, they're eating 6 customers. You're going to bribe them with 5 gold. It means the gnomes also get stronger as the game progresses. I'll shuffle these. So these are ally cards, and kind of during the game, you're going to get extra allies, which are going to give you special abilities. For, in this case, beer bears allow you to take certain actions and move farther. This is an action space that allows you to take gnomes and move them to other tiles. Here's one that allows you to convert 5 gold into 2 points, etc. So there's all sorts of upgrades. That's another kind of fun part of the game, is that every turn you're going to get one of these that's going to kind of maybe change your strategy and the abilities that you have. These are judge cards. These are only used in competitive and cutthroat play, and basically these are secret end game scoring. So this is one for having every tile that has 1 or more of your cubes in it of this particular type. In this case, grassland, and the number you have indicates the points you're going to get at the end of the game. It's pretty basic. Oh, look, these two go together. Here's some other examples here. Ooh, I love that stash. Okay, again, we would not use those in a co-op game. These are the gnome cards. I won't go heavily into them, but basically this is the cards the automa cards the gnomes are going to draw to, number 1, move the dragon, and then determine what the gnomes do during their phase where they take all their actions. This is the gnome board, which is the equivalent of the player board. It's a little bit different. This is where they place their breweries out on the board. This is where they place their customers, where they store their gold. This indicates, based on solo, cooperative, competitive, or cutthroat, how many gnome cards are played every single phase when it's their gnome action phase, so it's really in a handy place. This is something I think is really important to this game. The game has a bit of, I would say, like a learning curve. Is that at the beginning it's a lot harder than it is at the end. Like first time, few games you're gonna see things that are gonna be very hard. But once you play, it gets easier and easier. Well, that's why I have this difficulty adjustment here. This is a point adjustment for every single turn. So in this case, this would be times 5. So this would be, up to impossible, which is 4 additional gnome points every single turn, down to the gnomes losing 2 points every single turn. Most new players, I would suggest doing beginner or even easy if you're, you just want to learn it. Once you get up here to hard, difficult, I've never beaten a game on solo or cooperative at impossible. I did difficult once. I know it's possible because I've come 1 point away from beating an impossible, but it's very, 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 very hard. Most of the time we play at 1 or 2. That's pretty good. If it gets above this, it could be stressful for some players. I love it though. This is your kind of action board. This is where you're going to be placing your brewers, aka your workers every round, to be taking actions, right? So, and these are kind of cards that are shuffled and changed. So the order that these action spaces take, which are like these 3 right here. This you pay beer, these you pay gold, or beer. I guess in this case is the other one that we pay beer for. These spaces with exclamation points happen immediately. This with the beer, these happen after all the workers have been placed. So anything placed here happens immediately. So in this space, for example, here, pay 3 gold to build a brewery. You place your guy there, spend 3 gold, place your brewery on the board, and you're done. These are all immediate. This one allows you to employ thugs, which is removing gnomes from the board and replacing it with 2 of your own customers. Bribing the dragon, making it move. These have 1 beer, 2 beer, and 3 beer costs. You place all your workers, and after all the workers are placed, you resolve these cards from top to bottom like this. So first you resolve this card, blank, 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 this card, blank, 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 all to the end. So the order of which these cards occur changes. And there's 10 cards, you only use 8 of them. So sometimes there's 2 of one thing. I've had situations where some rounds you don't have expand cards, so you're going to be looking at building with this. So it's fun. That's a really fun part of the game for me, is that this changes the way. It's a puzzle that every single round you got to figure out the best way, most efficient way to get your breweries and customers out on the board. Aside from these handy dandy reference materials, I think I got over kind of the basics of the components. I'm going to make some subsequent videos where I'm going to go over the game setup. And then I'm going to make 2 series of videos, actually, for game setup onwards, of one for competitive, the other one for cooperative, of how to set up the game, how the game turn structure works, and then go through each of the game phases. And then lastly, I'll make a video about end game scoring, and then whether or not you win. So I hope you stick around and watch those other videos. Thanks.